Alright, this is a video tutorial on how to create a net and then add graphics to it using Illustrator and Photoshop. So we're going to start in Adobe Illustrator. New File, New. Then we are going to make it horizontal, so landscape, not portrait, so that's found here. Give it a quick little name. Something like that. Hit OK. Alright, good. Now, the main tool we're going to use for creating a net is the rectangle tool, which is found over here. Alright, so to create a box net in Illustrator, we first need to start with the rectangle tool over here, and then we just click. And so the first rectangle I'm going to make is going to be 80 tall and 50 wide millimeters, and this will be the back of the box. If you hold Control, you can move it around, or you can use this black selection tool here. That easily can move things around. Going back to the rectangle, I'm going to make my second rectangle. This one is going to be 40 wide, and then I'm just going to slide it across next to the back. So I'll use the black tool to do that. Alright, now if I hold Shift, I can select them both together. I can press Control C, then Control V, and then I can put those copies over there. If I drag, I can move them all together. So right now I've got a front, which is this one here. I've got a side, and then the back here. Now I'm going to get another rectangle and do the top. The top has to be as tall as the sides are wide. So if the sides are 40 wide, then the top has to be 40 tall. And the width has to be the same as the width of the back, which was 50. So there we go. Alright, I'm just going to copy that, Control C, Control V, and use that to make the bottom. Alright, so this is the net finished. Now I'm going to make tabs, and the tabs, we need to have one here, here, and here, one here, here, and here. Then we need one around here or here. So our tabs should all be the same width that they need to be, and then they need to be 1 centimeter or 10 millimeters in width. If you see what I mean. So just check that that's in the right spot. There we go. Now the way that we make the tabs the right shape is we use the white selection tool here. When we click on a corner, and we use an arrow key to tap it into position. So you can see how I've done that. Going back to the black selection tool, I can now select it and then copy and paste and put that where it needs to go. I'm just going to drag this one up here and then bring it out to there. Control C, Control V. I can now transform by right clicking. Then we'll just use rotate. We'll go 180. That flips it upside down. We can put that there. Then copying it again, I'll bring it over here. Drag it back into place. Control C, Control V, and put this on here. Now we just need one more to go over here, and we're going to transform it again. Rotate by 90 degrees should do it. Oh, wrong way. Transform, rotate 180. Alright, and then we just drag that down. Okay, and this is our net finished. So now that it's done, I'm going to save it. Save as, I'll just make a new folder quickly. I'm going to save it as mrlwnet.ai, so I'll hit save. All this doesn't really matter, just hit OK. Now we're going to go into Photoshop and we're going to open it. So we go File, Open, mrlwnet.ai. Just hit OK. Alright, and it'll look like this. Next we're going to make a new file, so we go File, New. So it has to be 297mm by 210mm, and the resolution should be about 200 at least. When that's all set up, you just hit OK. Alright, now we're just going to use this square selection tool up here. We're going to drag it across everything to select it, hit Control C, switch across to this file and Control V. Now mine's clearly too large for this page, so I'm going to quickly press Control T, and this allows me to resize it. So Control T is a very important command, it lets you resize pictures. We'll drag that up here. When you're happy with that, you just press the tick up here. Alright, and you can see over here on the layers, we've got layer 1 and then we've got background. Background is just a white layer, and layer 1 is the net. So you can see the squares are whatever is sort of invisible, or what you can see through. So it's, yeah, underneath the background. Now, what we do next is we make the background invisible. And then we need to select using this tool here, the Magic Wand tool, which might be under a tool for you, but it's the Magic Wand tool. And you then press the delete key to delete your panels like this. You then need to grab the paint bucket tool here, and also, by the way, you press Control D to deselect, so you need to deselect this. Now with the bucket tool here, we grab grey and we make all these tabs grey, and then we make the background white. So what this does is it sort of keeps our net layer really safe, and then we can just lock it using this lock button here, and that means that now we can't interfere with it. See? The layer is locked. So now we can use this button here next to the bin to create new layers, and it's on these new layers underneath the net that we drag them down, so new layers go beneath the net layer. And now we can do things, we can add graphics and stuff on these layers without interfering with the net, so we can't stuff the net up by accident. So now I'm going to show you some examples of things you can do to add graphics to your net. So I've got the net layer selected currently, which lets me select different parts of the net. So if I click the magic wand here, it lets me select this part of the net, and I'm going to select all of these front faces, all of the side panels and front and back of the box. And I'm going to go down to my color layer, and with it still selected, I'm going to use this tool, which is the gradient, to create some gradient work. That's alright, but again, it's not exactly what I'm after. I'm after a bit more of an orange, I reckon, and I'm going to change the green maybe to a purple. We'll see how this looks. Okay, that's a little better. Maybe a little bit less. Yeah, I reckon we'll try that. We'll see how that looks. So if I press Control D, that deselects everything. Okay, now on the top, I'm just going to grab my bucket tool here, and I'm going to go to Magic Wand, and then I'm just going to bucket tool with the color layer, that color there. And I'm not a big fan of that. I'm going to actually take this color here, go back to the bucket tool, and try this color on it. Hang on. So I'm holding Alt to do this. So holding Alt lets you sample a color. There we go, that's a bit better. And how about we take this purple down here, we will select it on the net layer, and we go down to our color layer, bucket tool, click there, Control D. Alright, so now if we take away our net, you can see this is what we've got underneath. Now we make the net visible again, and that's what we've got on top. Okay, so that's how we do colors. Now let's start doing some graphics. So what do we mean by graphics? Graphics are any pictures, any text, any shapes we want to do, logos, designs, all that is under graphics, okay? So this is, graphics is the real point of this task. It's to try to target your target audience with graphics. So I've decided that my box is going to have a candle inside, so I'm going to use a picture of a candle. Luckily I have one right here, and I'm going to put that in right now. So I can just drag that in from my folder into Photoshop. And I'll resize it by holding Shift. And just get it to the size I want. I'm going to put it on the front. So this here is the front of my box. And I'm going to have my candle right here. Now when I'm happy with the placement of the candle, in fact I think that might be a bit too big, because we're going to want to have room for a logo or a heading of some sort up the top. So we'll put the picture there, done, tick. Now see how it's just got this awkward black shape there. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is right click it, and we need to be on a different tool, so we need to be on a selection tool, right click it, and I'm going to click rasterize layer, and this lets me now edit that picture. So I'm going to edit it by going in with the eraser tool, putting the flow down to 6, the hardness to 0, that's good. And so because I have a large size of about 170 and 0 hardness, means that I've got a very soft eraser here. So see how I can now blur the edges of this candle. So I'm going to zoom right in so I have a lot of control. Then I'm going to turn the flow up just a little bit. So this lets me blend things in. So see how I'm on the candle layer? So it's just the candle that's affected. So this lets me blur this candle in into the background really well. Alright, now still focusing on this front panel. After having put this candle in, what are we going to do next? Well, it would be good to have some text. So what I could actually create is something of a logo if I really wanted to. So I think the best logos tend to have a shape behind them. So I'm going to have a shape. So I'm going to use, this is where the shapes are found, down here. You can have rectangles, round rectangles, ellipses, polygons, that includes triangles. And I'm going to have a look at the custom shapes, which you can find with the custom shape tool. These are all our different settings for it. And this is where you can find the different custom shapes. So I'm going to see what we have here. I might try this one. So I just drag it down like this. We can change the color here. We can make it a different shade of purple if you want. Yeah, so you can click this rainbow button to have a bit more variety of choice. Yeah, we'll go with that. That's better. And here is how we can change the border. So we've got a black border on it currently. I'm just going to bring the width of that down a bit so it's a lighter border, lighter boundary. And if I'm happy with this shape, I can just click on the different layer, and I'm going to create a text layer on top. So see this T here? This allows me to add text. So horizontal type tool. I'm going to have it on centered orientation here, and then I'm going to click in the middle of my banner, just here. Now see the size is huge, so I'll bring that down. Why is it like it is? Let's choose a nice font. Alright. I'm going to create a brand name for my candles. I'm going to call them Lynchie's Scented Candles. Alright. Now I've tried to be pretty careful with my font selection so it sort of fits the sort of demographic that would like to buy candles. So I'm imagining kind of middle-aged women and or older women. So it's a sort of more curvy kind of font. It's a little bit cursive looking. It's got some twirl to it. This should hopefully encourage that demographic to want to buy these candles. So I'm trying to target my demographic with my font selection. I'm also going to choose a shade of yellow that sort of fits with the background color. So you can see already that fits really well with the purple. So I'm going to hit OK. So we choose the color up here. Just going to increase the size slightly. See how that looks. So I'm going to reuse this one again. And we're going to bring it into the middle. We'll bring up the size. Why can't I do that? Oh yeah. And this adds style to it. Yeah, we'll go with wave, just slightly. And then what we're going to do now to this text is we're going to go down here to the FX button, we'll click that, and we'll click stroke. And stroke is basically an outline. So we're going to make the outline on the outside by going position outside. We'll make the size a little smaller. Maybe we'll make it 4. And we're going to make the color very dark blue, purpley color. And hit OK. And holding Control allows me to move this down to here, down to there. And I think I'm not quite happy with the size, so I'm going to press Control T. So this allows me to resize it a bit. Just going to make it slightly bigger. Bring it up a little higher. Just make it a little bit more prominent. Then hit Enter. Alright, so that is the front of our box so far. What do we think? Lynchy scented candles. Okay. Alright, what else do we need to do? The last thing I'm going to add is just something behind the candle. So to go behind the candle, I'm going to add a layer underneath the candle here. So layer, it's called layer 1 now. I'm going to call it petals. Just going to add in some like rose petals behind it all. So I'm going to go to my folder, grab this little picture here. I'm going to have to resize it. So remember resizing, we just hold shift and we drag down the corner. We can also rotate it, which is what we're going to do here. I'm going to rotate it like this. And it's going to end up going behind everything like that. Alright, so it's very hard to see now, right? So we hit Enter. It looks pretty bad, but we're going to fix it up. So one of the things we have to do is we need to right click it and press rasterize layer. That's one of the main things we have to do. Whenever you bring a picture in, you've got to make sure it's rasterized. Now if I get rid of some of the stuff in front, if I get rid of these, I'll just make them invisible momentarily. Then it allows us to just focus on what we have here. Alright, now using the magic wand tool, I'm just going to click, so magic wand, clicking on the white lets me delete the white. Alright, now let's see how this looks with everything else back on top of it. If we bring everything back up. Alright, now last thing I'm going to show you quickly is just a little trick with your layers over here. It can be pretty helpful to put them into folders. So I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to go to Layer, Group. I'm going to call the group Front Panel. Enter. So it's just really important to remember, guys, that you have your net layer on the top and it's locked. You have a color layer somewhere down the bottom probably, and then in between you have your front panel which has all these graphics on it, and then you'd also have probably a group for your back panel, which is this one, then a group for your side panels, group for your top, and a group for your bottom. And just quickly guys, here's an example of one that's finished. This is one I did last semester or last year. This one has, as you can see, it's got front graphics in a box in a group here, and it's got a folder for back graphics here. I've got a folder for all the sides, which are these. And you can see on the top we've got our net layer. One quick thing I'll point out on this is just to remember to have your panels facing the right direction. So up here, where it's got, this is the top, I've written open here upside down. So I just did that by doing right click, transform, rotate. So just remember you can rotate things. And that's because when it's all folded up, that would actually be facing the other way. Everything else on this particular design has been able to just be the straight up direction. Alright, so this is an example of one that's finished. This is an example of one that's in progress, but you can see we've made a good start on it. And so, yeah, good luck on yours.